had quite a few questions come in about my Pocket 4K rig for commercial work. So today I'm just gonna run through all the pieces of gear that I use to rig up my Pocket 4K. This might get a little confusing, so just bear with me. I will be displaying all of the B-roll to show you exactly what I mean. So on my Pocket 4K, I use the small rig cage. Then I have a Manfrotto 577 rapid connector that the quick release plate slides into, and that sits on top of my small rig mounting plate. On the bottom of the small rig mounting plate, I have another Manfrotto quick release plate. That way I can quickly put it on a tripod or take it off. I am using small rig 15mm aluminum rods. I can't exactly remember the length long enough where I can fit my matte box, my lens support, as well as my follow focus. Moving on to how I power the camera, I use a Max Oak 177 watt-hour battery. It's a huge, chunky battery, and the biggest reason why I got it is for the weight, not necessarily the capacity of power that it has. To mount the battery to my rig, I use a Nisi rig, I believe it's pronounced, VLock Plate, and I mount that right onto a small rig cheese plate. Then what I did is I took a 15mm rod attachment and put it at the bottom of the small rig cheese plate. That way I can slide on and mount my VLock plate system. I then use a 2-pin LEMO to D-tap connector to power my camera from the V-mount battery. One thing to note on this V-mount battery is it lasts an eternity. I have used this battery for multiple shoot days on one single charge. Obviously, shoot days are very unpredictable and they could last from 2 hours to 12 hours. A lot of my shoots averaged around 6 to 8 hour mark, and I have gone 2-3 days without charging the battery. To carry my camera around, I use a small rig 1955 top handle. I finally figured out that the small rig cage has an integrated NATO rail right on top of the cage, and now I mount my top handle right onto the integrated NATO rail. The handle has a cold shoe on top of the handle, and that is where I mount my monitor. I use an Atomos Shinobi. I take an HDMI cable right down running into the camera. This stupid sun, dude. This is why you need to light with lights. This is why you need to light with actual lighting gear and equipment, not the sun. Very unpredictable. I should have never used this window, but it was just so easy. To power the Atomos Shinobi, I use NPF 970s from Sony. I love the 970s because they last an eternity. Obviously, if you wanted to slim down your rig and make it less, distracting or heavy, you could take those batteries off, but I use them because it adds weight and because the batteries last forever. The way I mount the monitor to the cold shoe is using a digital photo articulating swivel hot shoe mount. The reason I went with this over the small rig option or the other alternatives is just because it was way cheaper. I believe I picked this up for 15 to 20 bucks. The follow focus that I use is a Genistech or Genistech, however you pronounce it, follow focus system. It's a manual follow focus system. I think this follow focus system kind of lies in the middle of the road when it comes to performance. It's not the best, but it definitely is better than some of the other really cheap options that you find on Amazon. I like how it mounts to the rails. It's just a simple tightening screw, and you can pop it right onto the 15mm rails from above instead of having to only do it from in front of the rail system. A lot of the time I'm running the Sigma 18 to 35mm on this setup, so it's a little bit heavier of a lens, especially adapting it onto the Viltrox and then the Viltrox onto the Pocket 4K. That's a lot of weight coming down on the mount of the camera and the mount of the Viltrox. So I use a lens support system from Small Rig just to counteract that weight and keep that weight lifted. I also use a Genistech 4x4 GWMC matte box to throw in my 4x4 quarter black Pro Mist, as well as drop-in square filters, and I have a top flag on that to cut down lens flare as well. And lastly, for media, I have a 500GB SSD from Samsung, the T5, and I have the T5 holder on the small rig cage. All in all, this rig is amazing. I wouldn't change a thing at this moment for how I have it set up. I really like this. It's very optimized to my style of filmmaking, and maybe it could be to yours. I want to thank you guys again for watching this video, for supporting this channel, and if you haven't, and if you like this type of content, please consider liking this video and subscribing. That would be greatly appreciated. So thank you guys again for watching, and I hope to see you next time.